Hi, I'm Michael Allison, Commercial Director at Roma Finance, and welcome to another episode of RomaTalks, where we meet people from across the property ecosystem. I'm pleased today to be joined by somebody who sits firmly in the centre of that ecosystem, somebody who we know very well, which is Finbarr Doyle from Procurement for Housebuilders. Hi, Finbarr.
How are you doing? You all right?
I'm okay, thank you. You all right?
Good. Yeah, I'm not bad, thank you. I'm not bad. Journey went okay, so I'm good.
Oh, good. Normally we have to warm people up to hopefully they open up and talk. I don't think we're going to have that issue with you today.
No, but I'm going to warm you up. So I've got something for you. A little birdie told me something a little while back.
Right.
So I'm going to spoil the intro and give you this.
It's not a summons or anything like that.
No. I think you'll enjoy it.
Oh, thank you very much. Do you want to open it now?
You can. It's a little bit of fun, Michael.
Right.
Someone told me about your aspirations in front of the camera, so I thought I'd make it official, if you like. There's two of them, one for the studio and one for your office.
Right. P4HB's certification in the recognition becoming the first person in development finance sector to successfully transition to professional chat show host. Very good.
You're most welcome. News travels fast.
This all... You swine. There it is. This all comes from... I was trying to explain to my daughter and my missus. My daughter said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "I'm in Manchester." I said, "I'm recording." And I don't know why I said it. I said, "I'm recording my chat show." And as soon as I said it, I knew what was next. Tara, she must have been in the other side of the house. She came running in and went, "Chat show?" And they couldn't stop laughing. And ever since, there's, "Oh, Michael Allison, chat show." So thank you very much. So obviously, I told it in confidence, just in passing to Finbarr, and now I've got the certificate and the chat. So welcome to RomaTalks, the premier chat show from Specialist Lending. I'm your chat show host, Michael Allison. Yeah, thanks for that.
You're most welcome. I want photographic evidence of your family with that, though.
Oh, yeah, I'll send it over to you. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to put one of them. We have all the awards we win as a business. I'm going to walk in the office, swipe them all to one side.
Excellent.
And plonk that one in there. And at home, I'm going to take off my bronze life-saving certificate from Raynell High 1991, and that one goes back on instead.
That's great.
Listen, you're the first person to bring me anything, and hopefully the last.
Or maybe a new trend has started.
Maybe a new trend has started of never tell Finbarr anything. So question one was, why are you such a trustworthy person? So we'll skip that. No, in all seriousness, thank you very much for that. Really,
you're most welcome.
So for those who don't know, and obviously we know each other very well, tell us a bit about yourself and Procurement for Housebuilders, your businesses.
Sure. So we set up Procurement for Housebuilders actually, as it is now, in lockdown. So business started in 2019, and then we did some research in the glorious April of 2020 when it was sunshine and no one had anything to do. We did some research. We spoke to a lot of people. And really, it was a kind of a crystallization of a number of ideas that have been floating around in previous roles I'd had. And my background is in procurement and building materials, and I always felt that there was a kind of a niche for SME developers missing, which is that no one's really talking about how they guarantee supply of materials for the projects they're on. And we see the window of opportunity for SME developers as there's an opportunity in planning, there's an opportunity in how they stack their finance deal. And then they go and once they start delivering their projects, they really are reliant on relationships at a local level for materials. They've got no sort of up-chain relationships. So once things get a bit tight, once demand goes up, once things fail to flow, and it always fails to flow, there isn't really anyone that's got their back to make sure they get what they need. Only the big players can leverage that. And what we've learned in the last sort of 4 or 5 years is that actually everyone's in the same boat. Once you go to deliver, it seems 90% of projects in the UK will overrun on cost and time this year. 90%. Now, that's a scary number. The 90% is at least 10% over on cost and time. but a good third will be 50% over on cost and time. So we're trying, really, we see it as our niche, if you like, or our purpose is to try and mitigate that. So that's what we try and do for our clients. And we start with, giving surety in the supply chain, giving surety to our clients about what their real costs will be from their drawings, and then flow through to really making sure that a plan is put in place to get their materials just in time. And the business came about. I mean, I've been in procurement now for too long, really. And I always felt that there was something missing. I'd set up contract sales offices, I'd run builders merchants, I'd run buying groups. But I always felt that there was a niche missing for developers to be able to close that gap and make sure when they push the button to deliver their projects that they had what they needed. And invariably they don't. So that's where P4 came from.
Yeah, getting what they need at the time when they need it as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly with the weather in this country, you when it's good weather, you've got to crack on. You've got to be quick. And it's interesting you mentioned that you did this as COVID started and hit. Post-COVID, the material shortages were obviously well documented.
It was crazy. We had situations where people were bidding for pallets of plaster and plywood. And a lot of people lost, good relationships, solid relationships over the fact that they were taking money instead of relationships as the serious sort of currency. We managed through our relationships, through really perseverance in the early days, we managed to supply what our clients needed. It was difficult, but we were on some serious projects and cutting our teeth in the early days of the business in COVID, and managed to successfully deliver projects that had a budget and still came in on budget, which really made clear to us that there was big opportunity to get this right. So being able to deliver projects on budget and on time during COVID was, not quite a miracle, but it's not far off it, really. And so having done that, we thought we were onto something, and we've grown ever since.
Now, how do you find that the developer takes to that? Because it was somebody coming in to say, we can help you with this and we'll follow us. Have you found that a difficult sell? Because there's many a type of developer in them.
There is, and I think what's interesting is our big sort of push now is trying to get contractors to become developers, because they're having a really tough time with tier 1 and tier 2. And that's a sort of a journey we want to take some of our clients on, and we've successfully done that a few times now. I think it depends what the setup is and where the perceived risk sits in the supply chain or in the contractually. We've spoken to some developers who simply do not want to take on the risk of materials and expect simply to pass that risk to their contractors to build out. And we've no problem with that. But I think it's interesting that you're prepared to go through the pains of planning, the pains of finance, and then you're prepared to pass the onus of the risk for delivering on time to a third party, but the risk still sits with you. And I'm always intrigued by why you continually allow that to happen, particularly if you are delivering, over costs and over, and not delivering on time. So, and sometimes we do come across clients who are resistant to change. Of course they are. The industry is, I think, waking up to change, but it's still relatively resistant. What's interesting to us, though, is that, we can't really spend our time trying to convince developers and contractors to change their way if they don't want to change their way. We're not the ones to convince them. What we do know is that when they do come with us and they do change how they build and how they deliver, that they don't go back. So that's quite interesting, is that they understand that they feel, we say this time and again, James and I, my business partner and I, say this time again when we're talking to prospects, it's, you won't really know what real value we bring until you feel it, okay? But you have to live it and you have to experience it. And so we ask our clients to test drive us so they understand what they're going to get but we don't just want one project, we want all the projects. So and it's interesting when we have those conversations in retrospect with clients, that it is the smaller things, it's the shrink on site that doesn't occur anymore. It's the damages that they don't see. It's the excuses for having downtime on site that they don't get. And they're gold, but people put up with it until they realise that they shouldn't have to.
Good business is all done on solid processes.
Yeah.
And managing your margin is part of that process. But knowing that if something needs to be delivered on Monday morning, what stacks up for it to go through. So you need that certainty that on Monday morning those materials come in because you've lined up trades to work on for the next 2-3 days.
100%.
If that goes into next week, well, this is where your 90% comes from.
Yes.
Because you then can't have everyone cohabiting on the same site.
And it gets, and there is a domino effect. So if you're expecting to do your second fix on site and materials don't show up, then your second fix on plumbing and electrics can't happen, because and those guys are scheduled to come on site the following week, but you can't because you're not ready for them. So it has really potentially have big compound effects. And look, it isn't, of course, about process and stuff, but it's also about making sure that we try and make sure that we have fun with our clients too. So because construction isn't sexy. It's not particularly, a great place to be on a Monday morning when the heavens have opened up and everything. It looks like a pit. So we do try and shine a light on the lives. We try and make whatever comes to site. We try and make it as efficient as possible. We try and have a really good relationship with people on site, and we try and turn up every now and then and put smiles on their faces, because that's what it's about, really. Is if you could put a smile on your client's face, then and it's hard in construction to do that, but if you can do it, then
yeah. I have this phrase I always like: it's surprise and delight.
Yeah.
If you can surprise and delight somebody, you've changed the way the relationship works. I'm not sure you surprised and delight. You certainly surprised me. I'm not sure about the delight. But little things like that means that we've got a relationship. We can talk, and then it comes through. So one of the things I just want to go back on is you mentioned about contractors to developers. Are you seeing a shift of that at the moment?
We are. I see. We talk to a lot of people. The business is built on partnerships like this. We don't do anything outside of really partnerships. So we see our clients as partners. We see our network and our pipeline as filled by strong partnerships. And some of those partnerships now that are emerging are genuine people who've maybe come from a contractor background themselves, have turned developer, and look behind them and see a queue of contractors who really are having a tough time and genuinely want to help. We had a really good conversation, James and I, with a group yesterday who's setting up a business just purely to try and get contractors out of contractor world and into developing, even if it's only a couple of units in a year, and then maybe grow from there. And what is it that they need to surround themselves with to be able to do that? So it's not just about, they know how to build. That's the big part. But, what other sort of support and knowledge and expertise they need to surround themselves with, and whether that be land or finance or business or procurement and so on. And so we're really interested in supporting that, because we think that is genuinely feel that that's the future. It's not just when we started the business. I'll go off on a little tangent for a minute. But when we started the business, James and I really genuinely thought that once we got further up the food chain to sort of tier one and the main contractor, that they absolutely knew what they were doing, and so that we wouldn't have any value to bring to those people. And actually, what we found is the opposite. Actually, everyone needs the value that we bring. What we've decided to do is choose where we bring the value, and so what we've chosen is to support David, not Goliath. It's hard working with the Goliaths of this world. They really do can make. Don't get me wrong. There's some really good ones out there, but there's also some terrible ones. So we see it as almost a duty. With our other business, Daylight has been scarred by Tier 1 in a pretty bad way. We've come out on top. We've come out smiling. We've come out with the right results all round. But I don't want, if I can help one contractor not have to go through that again, then it's worth the effort as far as I'm concerned.
It's interesting. This is probably one of the many synergies between Roma and P4HB is we see that the contractors becoming the developers, the experienced tradespeople having to go themselves, maybe on a smaller project first. We see them as some of the safest pair of hands that you can invest in. And for them, the daunting bit is getting the materials. The daunting bit is getting the finance and knowing somebody will back them. And if they were to go to the high street for finance, they're not backable. Yeah. And we know that, but for us, they are the perfect custodians of our cash.
No one speaks construction like contractors. And so you can't get what you need as a contractor on the high street, or you have to go and find it. And hopefully we can help them find it.
So obviously that's where we've got to.
Yeah.
How have you seen it change? So obviously 5 years is a long time in business, and it feels like there's a lot of speed bumps, geopolitical, etc., cost of living, whatever it may be, and things have changed a lot in those 5 years. How have you seen the attitude of developers change during that time?
I've never. I think some things have really changed and nothing's changed at the same time, right? So, as an example of nothing changing, we look at trends and indices and so on. Particularly, supply chain and looking at what is true and available in terms of deliverable to projects and stuff. And when you track things like everyone moans about inflation and the price of stuff, but actually things like 4x2, if you track it over the last 100 years and add inflation in, it hasn't actually changed at all. So that's something that hasn't changed, which is good. Things that have changed, I think I don't think SME developers have had it so ripe for them to succeed now. The energy that I see in the last 18 months, 2 years, of the amount of people who are out there, and some of them may be after a quick buck to educate, in inverting commas, but I've never felt so much positivity, so much genuine support out there as I've seen in the last 18 months from these sorts of conversations. But also, you look at some of the stuff that's happening with some of the articles you read in Blue Bricks and some of the networking events and shows that you go to. You can feel that there's a genuine swelling of support for contractors and SME developers to succeed. I just think they just need a break. And I think the confidence hopefully is coming. Yeah. I think the other thing that's changing is how we build. There are new technologies coming on. Some of them are viable. Some of them, as we've discussed perhaps in the past, aren't as viable as we'd like MMC, modular construction and stuff. But I think that being really good at what you do and focusing on your strengths is something that is changing. And when you talk to people about asking them what it is that they're really good at, and saying, okay, if you focus on that and surround yourself with other people who are really good at the other elements that you may not be strong on, then isn't that a better way to build? And I think SME developers are beginning to come around to that way of thinking. As an example, we've got a developer that we're working with right now who actually really came across as someone who'd really nailed procurement and really nailed his supply chain, until we explained what it is that we do and how we do it. And he went, okay, I get it. I may be good, I may be better than some or most, but I'm not good enough for that to be my strength. My strength is building. So, and hopefully those attitudes will continue to change. I think the other thing, one thing that hasn't changed enough and we need to address is skills labour shortage. The shortage of skills coming into the sector is really quite concerning. We've got an ageing workforce. 20%, maybe not quite 20%, but nearly 20% are due to retire in the next 8 years. and they will retire because they're of the age of retirement. They're not going anywhere else except retiring. And so I think that we really do need to find ways of attracting new blood and new mindsets into housing. Otherwise, we can have all the best processes. We'll be still here talking about the ideal, but we need people to build.
Do you think that's going to be one of the many stumbling blocks for obviously the government to set out 1.5 million homes?
I try not to chuckle.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's who's going to build them.
Yeah.
They can speed up planning process, or if they're able to speed up planning process, do everything. How do you see us getting around that skills shortage? Is there
I think
because it's not going away, is it?
It's not going away. It's really not going away, and there really has to be. The conversations that I have as often as I can with as many SME developers as I can is, you need to be on the lookout for, even when you're not needing them, you need to go out and find people who are energized by doing what you do and getting them involved in your business. Because even if you don't need them right now, they will be an asset, and they will become an industry asset over time. I think some of the people that we're talking to about helping contractors pull through to developers, I think those initiatives can have a sort of a pull-through effect to new skills coming in. But I think there has to be something much more fundamental and formal implemented from a government level and from an educational institution level. Now, I haven't done quite as much research into apprenticeships in the UK for construction as I have into glazing for my other business. But I learned last week, or a couple of weeks ago, that in this country we have 8 universities who offer a degree course in hairdressing, but 0 universities who will offer a degree course in glazing a facade. I can't get my head around that, and that's probably the attitude right across the construction sector. And so those formal ways of bringing people in, I think we've gone too far down the road of sending a generation of kids to university to in many cases disappoint them when they come out and actually figure out that actually you've spent a chunk of money educating yourself to a degree that you might not have done so, but did you need to? Could you have been creating value in the economy before that?
And longevity for yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And those who did, those people who I do know who went in and dove into apprenticeships and into trades, I don't know anyone who's not actually who's regretted that. So I see a lot of regret in going in and doing 5 years in university, 4 years in university, doing something highly useful usually, but to what end?
Yeah, But you see the stories that obviously people in the trade, once they're in it, can earn really well. It is fraught with risk. But so is it. Listen, so's being a lender.
Yeah,
it's fraught with risk. So's being a procurement for house. But if nobody's building, there's less need for your services and less need for our money. And I think making that step of we had Keith Richardson, our CFO, on a couple of episodes back, and the same thing is, if you can pick a skill, be really good at it, that you can transfer that skill into different things. He did it with finance, and feels like somebody who was able to pick up electrician. Well, there's different uses for an electrician, there's different uses for a carpenter, there's different uses for a glazer, all this kind of stuff.
There is, but I also think that there's, if you think about what happened in COVID, and who joined the property development brigade, doctors, dentists with money and nothing to do, all decided, well, I've got some money, I'll do some property and property development, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I really think that there's a huge opportunity now for a generation to come in and say, what can I do? And given what I was saying earlier, what we were talking about earlier about, I felt that it's never been I don't think there's ever been a better time to be an SME developer in the UK. Despite the headwinds, despite the fact that materials are short, and despite the fact that money's tight, and despite the fact that there's a labour shortage, and I still think it's a great time to be in it. And I think that if you can get men and women into property development and know that they only need to focus on their strengths, that there's enough care and desire out there to look after those other areas, then I think you can do something.
It all goes back to the ecosystem.
Yeah, it does.
That we talk about. There is enough people out there propping each other up.
Yeah.
If you think about your business, our business, you mentioned Blue Bricks before. You know, Sam's been on, a good friend of the show. We're all after the same person, which is the good quality property developer, and we all offer something different to that individual, regardless of who you are. You know, UK Homes Network, everybody offers something, and it's for some people they can have the full smorgasbord of all our experience, or for some people they only need a little bit, and that's why it's important. I think nobody's here to steal each other's dinner.
No, not at all. And everyone's got a different journey. So, you know, for some of our clients, they've got big ambitions and big scaling ambitions, and we need to be able to support that and surround them with, you know, people that can help them. And for others, their ambition is smaller. You know, they're quite happy to really just do, you know, a few projects a year and keep it that way. And so there's different people we surround them with, but there are people, and there are really good people, I feel, out there to give the right advice, the right helping hand. And so that's kind of what gives us a kick. Is you know, if we can help anyone just get on that journey, then we've done something of value.
And what you're saying as well, like customer comes back time and time again. So so you've got that.
Yeah,
we all look for that repeat customer model.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, that we don't lose sight of the fact that ultimately it's one thing to help someone start a journey. It's one thing to introduce them to people who can help them accelerate their journey. But ultimately, it's still about people. It's still about making sure that we don't lose sight of the relationships that are important. And they should override anything else. So, you know, it's very easy to sometimes forget that that yes, the processes need to work. Yes, the systems need to work. Yes, the technology needs to work. But ultimately, you've still got to put a smile on someone's face.
It's just got to be authentic, and
yeah, exactly.
You know, and the best business is done through a conversation.
Yeah,
you know, and just use it. But we're in danger, aren't we? We hear a lot in the news about AI and etc. taking over. How do you see that coming in, and how do you leverage AI but still keep that human touch, intelligent touch?
So, I'm one of the believers where actually AI is only dangerous if you don't embrace it. Because if you don't embrace it, someone else will, and you've not. Then God knows what will happen. And I think that, you know, if you look at what's going on between the sort of the bigger players out there on AI, I think there is a bit of jostling around, you know, what might be a good thing and what actually is better for the company behind it. I think in construction, AI is fundamentally going to change everything, if I'm honest with you. But what I mean by that is, you know, we're looking on, we're already using AI. So we're using AI to really challenge whether or not what we are saying to ourselves before we say anything to our clients is the best we can be, right? So we look at, we analyze information, we analyze data, we interrogate it, we then simulate it, and then that allows us to look at things maybe from a new angle. But I think how AI is going to change our sector in the next few years is how it's harnessed to streamline difficult processes that are difficult right now. So if you think about things like the speed to design, the speed to do a takeoff from a design, the speed at which you look at moving from a traditional method of build to maybe an alternative modular method of build. I think AI can play roles in all of that. How we're looking at using AI is really to look at shortening the timeline between shortening the timeline for our clients so that they have surety to start with much earlier on in their project phase. So from drawings, we understand what costs will be, and we're on a journey to try and establish that in hopefully in virtually real time. but then also to be able to value engineer in real time. That's our sort of pinnacle of where we think AI can help us, and that involves a large investment. Actually, the AI bit is the layer on top. All the stuff that needs to go into the systems, the data. We've done. We're now partnering with a number of institutions and bodies where we're now becoming very data rich as a business. Our technology is very good. Our technology systems. AI, I think, is going to be the sort of the cherry on top that allows us to say, well, what's possible now? Yeah, as opposed to just having all this information. What can we do with it that would be good for our clients? But then, I think AI will also get into, you'll be able to do, if you think about AI and drone technology, and you think about literally going around buildings or shells and being able to see what it will be like when it's ready to be lived in. We're looking at maybe how we might help clients be able to put on AR headsets in the future and be able to walk into the building that they've got on a drawing now and be able to feel what it will be like on a warm summer's day. It's that sort of stuff that I think AI can really do good in.
But you still need to talk to the people.
But we still need to talk to the people. Yeah, exactly that.
The human touch should always remain the intelligent touch. And intelligent is communication, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's being able to. I think we're very humans are very visual, and I think that the conversations you can have by being able to make things visually understandable. I can sit here with you and I can paint a picture of what I think I want my new house to be look like. But the picture in your head will be very different. Whereas if we're sharing the same vision, if I'm able to share that with you, imagine what conversation we can have there. Yeah. And that's what I mean.
And you find that, don't you, when you stood with an SME developer and that you stood in this timber shell.
Yeah.
And saying, the bathroom's here, and you're looking, and say, I get it. You have to step into their head.
Yes, you do, and that's hard sometimes.
Yeah, it is. Good. So that you've told us a lot about your business, how you got started. So what about yourself? How did you get into this?
So I've had 3 careers. So I started my career in publishing. I fell off a plane for a summer holiday from Dublin in 1989, and I never went back. Okay, so I came for a summer holiday in 1989, never went back, and I started my career actually selling classified ads in Autocar and Motor magazine, right? And then got into publishing, did B2B publishing for about 12 years, kind of ran out of road there, and then went into games. Started a games business, launched a games business.
Computer or board?
No, board games.
Wow.
Started a games business, launched that, and that became a sort of a global business very quickly. We were distributing in 4 continents and manufacturing in China, selling in the States and in South African stuff, and in Europe. That went a bit wrong. Business partner was not a good guy and decided that wasn't going to work. And just as that came, we hit 2008 and the crash. So it would have crashed anyway, our business, because retail completely shut down. I spent 2008 annoying my wife, doing a lot of DIY. And a friend of mine introduced me to a gentleman by the name of Neil Fuller at Alsford Timber. In February 2009, I knew nothing about building materials at that point. I knew nothing about timber, but I knew I could do what he needed in his business, which was his business had just imploded. Everyone's had, and he needed someone to help him, really understand what it is that was left and what we could rebuild. And I spent 7 years. I became commercial director there for the business. Spent 7 years at Alsford Timber, and then went on to run IBC Buying Group, which was a builders merchants buying group for about 280 builders merchants up and down the country, and we negotiated all their supply chain deals, and that's how I really got ingrained into supply chain. And I've been in it, I've been in it since 2009, and I've seen it at its worst and its best. And when it's at its worst, it's actually at its best. That's where the relationships really come in. That's where you get stuck in. And I've never known an industry full of, I've worked, as I said, in different sectors, but the people in construction are amazing. I'm glad I found it. Really am.
Well, as are we.
Yeah.
As are we. Listen, thank you very much for joining us today. I think we covered a lot. Thank you so much for my certificates. And
You're very welcome.
I can't wait to take them home. It's been fascinating. I could have talked for a lot longer. Maybe we'll bring you back on in the future as well.
That'd be lovely.
Lovely.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. And thanks for watching my new chat show. I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you. Goodbye.